Hello, good afternoon. I'm Elena. I am a national board certified health and wellness coach, and this week we're going to be discussing gut health and fiber. But before we get started, if it's okay with you guys, I just want to do this in every video session that we have because I think it's so vital. Is to discuss a little bit about, what is what is health coaching, right? And how we're going to apply it to these video sessions. So let's go ahead and get started. So health coaches are trained professionals who help clients adopt habits and behaviors that can dramatically improve their health. So this is really important here. It's not just about getting information. It's about applying the information, right? So meaning we all know what we're supposed to be doing, but sometimes it's hard for us to get started, and mainly because we need to kind of sit down, think about what we want, how we're going to put it in place, and then formulate a plan and go through it, right? And that's kind of how change happens. So this is your time to be able to do that, that. Right. So throughout this session, think of how this information applies to you and how you can put it into practice. I always recommend have a journal that you can follow along with. We're actually going to be doing a lot of work here. So having something to write and write your goals and your progress is highly recommended. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's change here. So, the goals of the workshop today are going to be to decrease constipation or diarrhea symptoms through the regulation of fiber consumption. And information. Okay, so this is what we're going to be discussing today. So, what is the difference between soluble and insoluble fiber? How it affects our body, how much fiber is recommended, and soluble foods and insoluble foods, right? So, what is fiber, right? So, fiber is in plant based foods, right? So, you're going to find fiber in fruits. Of course, we know this veggies, breads, right? Whole bread or even other white breads might have fiber in them. Legumes, that's any kind of bean, pinto, lima beans, all that kind. Those are legumes, rice, cereals, pastas, and oatmeal. Okay, so how does fiber affect our body? So we all know that they always tell us eat more fruits and veggies, right? Eat more fiber. And actually, it's pretty cool that fiber has a lot of positive effects here. So, of course, it helps us to manage our body weight, reducing colon system inflammation, and we'll talk a little bit more about our GI. It helps us balance our blood cholesterol, right? When we have high cholesterol, they're like, you need to increase your fiber. Regulating our bowel movements, right? So it kind of helps us with the constipation, regulating blood sugar levels, right? So fiber is also really important if there's any kind of insulin resistance or pre-diabetes, diabetes. Um, Helps you feel full when you eat, right? So when we eat a whole bunch of veggies um, and fiber, then we get full quicker, so we eat less, right? And we eat more nutritious. Helps with lowering the risk of certain types of cancer, colon cancer, right? Because it helps us kind of move things along. Um, so let's go ahead and talk about the difference between soluble and then insoluble fiber, right? Because typically they just say eat more fibers, eat more fruits and veggies, but we don't really discuss the difference. So if we kind of think of soluble fiber or foods with soluble fiber, they kind of dissolve in water, and it helps form like a gel-like substance in your intestines, right? So cooked veggies. So if you can kind of think of like Jello, right, or even like a plant-based Jello, they'll use the gelatin from plant-based veggies to be able to form Jellos, right? So soluble fiber specifically helps relieve diarrhea. And so when soluble fiber dissolves in the water, right, it forms a gel-like substance, kind of like jello. And then it kind of forms the stools together, right? So instead of having a whole bunch of watery diarrhea, it kind of forms it into more of a regular bowel movement into stools, right? Um, and examples of that would be like oats, white bread, white rice, pasta, beans, um, cooked veggies, and kind of like all these are soluble, right? And then if we kind of compare the insoluble, then we can see insoluble does not dissolve in water, right? And I think we have all kind of heard that before. It passes through our intestines undigested, right? So think of an example would be like a fresh salad, right? So a raw, large, fresh salad would be an example of insoluble fiber. And insoluble fiber helps us specifically with constipation or relieve constipation. So the insoluble fiber attracts water in the stool, making it softer and making it easier to pass with less strain in our bowels. It also helps improve bowel regulation, right? Uh, and some examples are whole grain bread, wheat bread, brown rice, nuts, green beans, cabbage, right? So different types of foods here that are specifically insoluble. So now let's talk about the recommendations, right? And we can get more specific if you're interested in finding out like younger and older, but I kind of put the more used ones here. So age 19 to 30, male 34 grams per day, females 28 grams per day. Age 31 to 50, male 31 grams, female 25 grams. So females require a little bit less than male, not a lot though. And it's so important for me to say, and that's why I put the asterisk here. If too much insoluble fiber is consumed and not enough soluble, then this could result in bloating or pain. So, an example would be we consume a large salad for lunch every day and we experience bloating and pain. The reason might be because you're consuming too much of the insoluble, right? So it's important to have a balance and see what exactly works for you. You know, how much soluble versus insoluble works better for you and for your condition. The other thing is fiber should be increased gradually with plenty of water. So we can't just um, go, if we're not used to consuming fiber, we can't just have a huge fiber meal because we're really going to get sick to our tummy, right? We might get excess gas, bloating, pain, and then we're like, oh no, I don't want to do that again. I'm allergic to healthy food. um, but that's not it. The fact is just maybe you just consumed a lot of fiber at once and your body wasn't used to it. So increasing gradually with plenty of water. And then the last thing is everyone is really different again, so really please pay attention to your own symptoms, um, and think about how you can regulate your soluble versus insoluble fiber to help you with your symptoms. And if you have any specific questions, please reach out to your primary care provider for a direction to get specifically what your needs are. There's a lot of diseases out there that could be directly related to our GI. So it's important that we get professional advice to your specific needs. Okay, and a couple, easy techniques to increase our fiber would be to, if we kind of get accustomed to either having a fruit or a veggie in our meals and snacks, right? If we do this, then we're golden. Um, the other thing is choose whole wheat products versus white products. So we can do this with flour. We can do this with pasta, with rice, some crackers, cereals. So there's plenty of options there. Um, and the last one is read your nutrition labels because they might show you a picture of a whole wheat, but if you look at the nutrition label, it might be like 1 gram. So it's really important to actually see the nutrition label instead of the front of the box. Okay. And this is where we really get to work. Okay. The whole point, as I said in this video sessions, is to kind of apply this information to you specifically, right? So a couple questions that you'd want to write in your journal would be like, okay, how many grams of fiber am I consuming right now? Right. So maybe this would need an exploratory goal where you say, okay, over the next 2 weeks, I'm just going to log my food and see how much fiber I'm consuming. Right. And then more specifically, how much soluble versus insoluble fiber are you consuming, right? Maybe you're eating all those salads for lunch, so your insoluble is really high, and maybe you are getting those tummy bloating and pain, right? So it's really important to see where you are right now to establish a base. Um, and then once you know how much fiber you're consuming, then you can see, okay, am I meeting the recommendations, right? Or is the fiber or lack of thereof causing some of my symptoms, right? So what adjustments to fiber do I need to make to meet recommendations and feel better? To and feel better overall, right? So, and what routine would work best for me to increase fiber daily, right? And what kind of fiber? So this is where kind of like the tips would come in handy, right? And think about what would work for you specifically. And you work your way up. Start little, and then little by little, as we said, we can start increasing that fiber until you feel better. Um, Another question would be, how many days out of the week would I like to do this action, right? Which days, at what time, right? So for example, you could say add 1 serving of cooked veggies, right, with dinner Monday through Friday. So, but maybe by adding that veggie Monday through Friday at dinners, it helped you increase your recommendation and maybe you feel better. So really having very specific goals of when you're gonna do it helps us achieve that, right? And then the other thing is, what if something gets in the way, right? A barrier. So think about what barriers could occur, and then thinking of solutions is always important so we can be ready. So what if you run out of veggies, right? So what if you're sick? What if you're eating out? Right. So what solutions will work for you specifically, right? So example, if I miss a day, I will make it up another day, right, of the week. Or maybe you just, if you don't have a veggie, you'll just have a fruit instead, right? So do what you can with what you have at that moment. um, and reminder, right? So how are you going to remember to eat the veggies? Right. So as again, set an alarm. You can place stickies. An example would be, I will place a frozen bag of veggies in front of the chicken. So it reminds me, right, when you're about to cook them. And then always thinking, okay, why is this new habit? How is this new habit going to help me? Right. So how is you increasing your veggie intake going to help you? Right. Well, it's going to increase your fiber, maybe specifically your soluble fiber. And then that's going to help with another symptom. So it's really important to really be specific with your goal and why you're doing it, because that helps us actually do it, right? And then the last one is celebration, right? I love to add the celebration here. It's once I accomplish my action, how can I celebrate, right? And this doesn't have to be big or food, right? It's just something simple. So once I finish eating my veggies, maybe you can do it as a family. You can, either say an affirmation by yourself, right? You can do a happy dance with the family, play your favorite song, or simply apply gratitude. So any kind of action that sends a positive signal to the brain helps us establish these new habits. Um, and lastly, thank you, right? We try and do these videos as short as we can to get the information out, and then the application, which is going to take a lot longer than this video. So really think about that. You can continue to join me at the live sessions every Wednesday. We're meeting live at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. So you can just go to the website, fgvnutrition.com, and register. I had an error, so nobody was able to register. So sorry. Please go again. Now you can register. So hopefully I can see some people next Wednesday. Or you can do one-on-one coaching. So again, if you need a little more support or more guidance, you can book a free health coaching session. We can talk a little bit more about that and work together. or join our community, right? So you can go to the YouTube, subscribe, so you can continue getting the weekly health coaching video sessions. And if you want, you can join the Facebook community and actually put in your goals there, and that would be a good way for us to kind of keep track of each other and encourage each other as we move forward with our goals. So thank you so much, and have a beautiful evening. See you guys soon. Bye bye.